YouTube, once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and click the bell. Subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger or Eagle. Now, a lot of folks are thinking like, where does Auburn's program continue to go from here? I think a number 7 recruiting class in the country is a good start. I think the continuity of the coaching staff, a lot of folks are not too fond of Gus Malzahn as the head football coach, but at the same time, he's done a great job of recruiting. He just hasn't won those pivotal games that folks think, hey, this is the guy for Auburn. Now, I think this season will go a long way in telling whether Gus Malzahn is the right choice for Auburn long term. There are a lot of winnable games, and there are a lot of games that where if he happens to lose the football games, this fan base is going to be livid. I mean, you talk about a trip to Atlanta for Auburn for the second time in like 3 years. I mean, they seem to do this thing every year. They're going to be taking on ACC North Carolina in a game that, by and large, the Auburn Tigers should win. I think Auburn has recruited better. They're a little bit more talented. This is a game that Auburn should win. Even though North Carolina pushed Clemson to the limit, this is a game that Auburn should win. And when I look at the future for Auburn, when you talk about recruiting and you talk about taking your program to the next level, I think about what Bruce Pearl has been able to do, especially with going to the Final Four. It starts to open the eyes of people to say, hey, maybe Auburn could be a program that I could consider. You think about the fact that Auburn has Isaac Okoro, one of the best players out of the state of Georgia, who could be a one-and-doner. He's a great athlete. He's a great basketball player and has done a lot for the Auburn program, especially with his return. Auburn didn't do too well when he wasn't around. So when we look at this long-term, what does Auburn have to do? I mean, absolutely have to do to be a part of the conversation of championships year in and year out. Number one, a football-only facility is a must. You look at all the great teams across the country, Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, Florida. I mean, these guys have great facilities, great programs, great, great eye candy for when players come in. They're looking around and I'm like, holy crap, like, man, this is someplace that I could consider myself being a part of for the next 4 years. Because when you look at even where you work as an individual, you look at the facilities. You look at are things falling apart? Are things up to date management, maintenance wise? You want to know those things. And the same thing a college kid wants to look at as well. They want to know that they could be a part of something that they can be proud of. And I'm not saying that Auburn's facilities is not something that can be attractive, but I think with the resources and I think with the relative success that Auburn has had over the past few years, I just think they can do more. And the Board of Trustees pushing the envelope for the football-only facilities is a huge portion of what's going to make Auburn successful long term. I mean, you talk about Oregon with the seats that massage you, and you got Clemson with the slide pool. I mean, it's just a luxury. These guys enjoy going to practice because they have all access to all this cool stuff. And that's something that Auburn is going to have to invest in. It's not like these guys at Auburn don't have the money. It's just a level of priority. What do we want to put our stock in moving forward to make this team as successful as they can be? I think the coaching, that number 2, you got to look at branding. And what I mean by branding is you look at teams like LSU, you look at teams like Oregon, you look at teams like Alabama. They have a certain brand to where when you think of them, you think of certain types of players. Like at LSU, they are accustomed to cultivating great defensive backs. At Alabama, they are great on offense and defense. Clemson has started to develop a culture of good wide receivers and relatively good running backs and good defensive linemen. So Auburn has to continue. I think they've done a good job with the defensive line because Auburn is able to attract some pretty good defensive linemen because of the efforts of Derek Brown and D Ford and guys over the years who have helped to develop the brand. Auburn has to continue to do that. And I think a good area of opportunity considering Auburn's past with Carnell Williams and Ronnie Brown and Kenny Irons, Trey Mason, Bo Jackson, I think Auburn has the opportunity to continue to cultivate that culture of having good running backs to attract some of the best and the brightest in the country in that particular position. So, I think Auburn is in a great spot. Number 7 recruiting class has loaded with diverse levels of talent. It probably will have some of the better depth opportunities than they've had in a few years. So those are the things that I feel that Auburn just has to do from a branding standpoint to move this program to the next level, to a program that's consistently competitive. And I think things will go, it will give Auburn the opportunity to be in the conversation late in November every year as to whether they will represent the SEC West, which is a super tough sub-conference to compete in, and quite possibly go to the SEC Championship and move beyond. I think the pieces are in place for Auburn to potentially do this, but will they cash in? Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football. Go ahead and click the bell, like, comment, and subscribe. Go ahead and let's get the likes up on this particular video. I want people to be able to see this Auburn content, which there's not a lot of on YouTube. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger.